Welcome to the Belly Dance Stories podcast, a multimedia production directed by Alexandra and Valerick.
You will hear inspiring conversations and learn about the ways belly dance has become a powerful channel of transformation in people's lives. Welcome, everybody. I'm Alexandra.
I'm Valerick Molinari.
And we're so excited because we are starting our season of our podcast for 2025. And this is going to be a really nice casual talk. We're going to kind of prelude our theme for this season of our podcast and talk a little bit about how we can grow and create evolution in our careers and our work, because at least for us right now in Belly Dance Stories, we're in a really interesting time where we are starting to pivot and get creative with what's coming next. And Valerick and I are just really excited. So I hope you enjoy this conversation and tune in. And if anything resonates, please let us know in the comments.
Yeah, it's been definitely an evolution. And this is something that we want to share with everyone. It's like we started as a theatrical show and then we expanded into a multimedia production that includes podcasts, workshops, online studio. And we've been we did that in such a short period of time.
Very short. We started in 2022.
Yes. And I think it's beautiful also as entrepreneurs and also women in the arts, how our curiosity and also how the changes that are happening in our lives inform also the direction that we take in our business and creative projects. And I think Belly Dance Stories is a beautiful story about, how you can blend your art, your life, and your business into creating something where everything kind of like sustain each other, everything kind of like inform each other. And yeah.
Yes, it's been very interesting because to give a quick recap for those who are just tuning in and listening to us, we started in 2022, very, very just casually. We didn't even call it Belly Dance Stories. We wanted a theater show for our students. So we started as a theater show in the theater arts. It snowballed into giving more classes and education about theater arts and belly dance. And now we are at a point 3 years later where we are like a hybrid studio, online and in person.
Yeah.
We are learning how to maneuver the ocean and the waves and the sea of the online world, because we're very much an in-person to person type
experience.
of experience and type of teacher, separately in our own work and then together as Belly Dance Stories. So I feel like we've really started to learn how to maneuver this growth and this evolution. And sometimes that evolution in a career has its own timeline. There's no like right or wrong or certain timeline that you need to go through for your business and your work.
To achieve it, yes.
To achieve your goals.
And I think for us, we started with a clear mission where we wanted to create a platform where students and dancers were able to have a more personal relationship with their dance by dancing their own stories. And then we realized also that concept can continue expanding and being a little bit more abroad by thinking about dance as a lifestyle, which is the direction that we're going now. And it's incredible because you could have a purpose when you're starting a business that can continue evolving, and that purpose can also continue changing into other directions, right? And I am a strong believer, and I think both of us speak as a testimonial of this on ways in which we have understood how do we bring dance to our lives, right? And how we can bring our lives to dance. And it's that symbiotic relationship, right? That keep us motivated, fresh, inspired, and wanting to do more. Because I feel the success that we had with the platform is that we want to do it. And sometimes when you decide to make of your passion your job, right? That also comes with a sense of obligation that may affect the way you perceive your passion, right? Because it becomes like a duty. And I think with the formula and the way we have learned to work with that in a way that, okay, this project feels good for me right now, which is something that we actually ask ourselves a lot. And is this something that I know is going to bring a benefit to my community? And like asking those questions constantly and keeping that north super clear.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah.
It's that everything you said was very loaded. There's
Yeah,
so many good things in there. There's a lot
know.
of good things in there. But a few of those things were what stood out to me at first was the almost like that duty that you have towards what you're creating and the projects that you have.
The commitment.
And the commitment, and how we hear a lot about artists getting tired or confused or overwhelmed, because I don't really want to say burnt out, since being burnt out is a very vague topic, a vague description to me, but more of either overwhelmed or they feel stuck or whatnot in their work. And I'm talking more specifically about professionals, not enthusiasts at the moment, but for the professionals who are working in a creative field, and in belly dance, and how the image of them, the brand that they project out there. And we were talking about this recently too, on how the brand is an extension of ourselves. It is not our personal mixed in with our business.
It's an aspect of us.
It's an aspect, and that's good to have, because that creates boundaries for when you rest and then when you feast. The rest
and flex.
Rest and flex. Yeah. So I think that for those who are looking to give themselves an upgrade in their careers or their creative lives, we just have to look at how we can set a few little boundaries that separates our personal release and relaxation. And then we can come back to our brand and our careers more fresh and creative, because if not, then we run into a place where we don't grow and we don't create these steps towards the evolution of our career. And in belly dance, it's very, like, I feel that with belly dance, the dancers, they don't look at other creative ways in their careers. They just think the very shallow, okay, I'm going to be a performer, or I'm going to be a teacher, or I'm going to do gigs, or I'm going to be a traveling artist. And that's it. They limit themselves to those few
options.
And I think that's very dangerous, because that will get you to a space of burnout, quote, quote, very quickly. And I love how with us, with Belly Dance Stories, we have been in constant conversation. Okay, this works. This doesn't work. This works, but now let's maybe try to add this to that. And a lot of what we have for our podcast this season and the episodes that are going to be coming up has a lot to do with different ways that one can grow and bring evolution to their belly dance careers.
I think a lot has to do with the process of self-discovery, right? So when we talk about developing your personal brand, right, it's about you understanding what do you have to offer, but that offer can change with time too, because you also as a persona, you're going to go through changes too. And as an artist, you're also going to have other type of concerns and things you are curious about. And you should be able to also grow your business into different directions. And I do think that sometimes in our field, we limit our possibilities on the things that we can create, right? Like it's that's a very common thing that dancers think, if I'm gonna have a professional dance career, it's either a performer or entertainer, a touring artist, or teaching classes, right? It's only like those 4 options out there. But there's a lot of things that we can actually do. There's a lot of spaces that we can actually reach, which is funny because we started, not funny, but interesting because we started also our Shimmy social events, which are a networking event for women that I feel that idea also started with our interest of looking for other businesses, experiences.
And the lifestyle as well.
And network and like trying to collaborate also with other women in other fields as a way also for us to expand our reach and our brand, but also to learn, right? From other entrepreneurs.
Yes, I think we both agree when we say that the lifestyle and the personal part, the self-discovery part is one of those keys to unlocking the doors when you need to push or to move or pivot in your work, in your career. And because that personal life informs what we can do with our brand and our dancing. Yeah, absolutely.
And when we feel stuck too, because right now I'm in a big personal transformation, right? I'm about to become a mother. And that also, when I find out that I was going to become a mother, right? I was in the middle of producing The Love Affair, Belly and Stories, but I was also a professional full-time dancer performing from Wednesday to Saturdays, sometimes even Sundays. So half of my week I was performing. And then I get this unexpected news. And then I realize, okay, now your body's going to go through a change and we're going to have to get rid of this aspect of your career, right? This has to take a break. And at the beginning, I freaked out a little bit because I was not expecting it, right? And then I realized on that break, right, that I stopped gigging is that I could gig in other directions. And a beautiful blessing that happened to me, which, oh my God, the universe is so extraordinary, is that I started to get booked for a lot of ladies events, like teaching and performing for ladies events. And I could do that with my belly. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I was like, wow, I never tap into this world that I love it. And I do it all the time. Every week I teach. And then I started to market more to different corporate events, different ladies' birthday party events for ladies. And somehow the restaurant gig, I faded naturally. And then I realized that, okay, I do have a belly, but that means that this belly is also going to give me access to other spaces that I've been ignoring.
Yeah, I think that ignorance is not always bliss, right? But it's not in a bad way, ignorance. It's more like unaware. And that, maybe when we're not looking for something, it finds us. And then depending on our mindset, because you have a very open mindset, you analyze those opportunities and you see them as opportunities, which is great because we have both been doing that for BDS, but that opened you up to feeling maybe better and okay and more relaxed. Like, hey,
Yeah,
There's this great world out there.
Actually, this is really cool. I should advertise more my classes for ladies event rather than a birthday party or a wedding, which are beautiful experiences too. But then I realized that, wow, there's an entire world here that I haven't actually discovered. And then my other thing that I realized, which I have coached several dancers on this topic, where dancers get overwhelmed by over gigging and their relationship with dance kind of like changes because dance becomes like we talk about like a duty, like an obligation, and they're hungry for feeling inspired and creative again and to connect with their creative self. And it was interesting when I took that pause, right, to feel that I was more inspired and creative than ever before. Even with my limitation, that it was actually not a limitation, it was like a huge blessing. And
a limitation that is a stereotype that the world puts on us.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And we have to see them for what they are.
Yeah.
And decide, is that really a limitation or is that just, society or my mind or my experiences or whatever, my psychology limiting me?
And I did have a couple of challenges because at some point I was told to have pelvic rest, which is like, how am I going to have pelvic rest as a belly dancer? Right. So I had to rethink about different ways to connect with dance that doesn't necessarily require my hips to be moving. And in that process, I realized, I want to write about dance, right? And decided to write a little bit more for Belly Dance Stories. And I still have a lot of things that I've been writing about dance that I haven't published. And I'm expecting to do it super soon for Belly Dance Stories. But then in the process of writing, I'm like, wow, I have all this information inside of me that I should structure it, right? And teach it and can write about dance. That is something that I never had time to do it before. So I took that time also to, okay, let me structure my classes. What are some information that I can write about, articles that could be helpful for other dancers? And then I started to also tapping into producing, which is something that I want Belly Dance Stories to help other dancers to understand how you could produce great, powerful, impactful events for your community. And it was because I had a change on my life that forced me to rethink about my business in a very different way and my talents and my magic. And I think it's essential for dancers that whenever you go through that moment where you feel stuck or uninspired, or you are in a professional situation that you feel is not working out for you, you gotta touch base with yourself.
Yeah, going back to the self-discovery and that personal part of your work that not everybody sees, that is you need to be in touch with that part of you. Absolutely, 100%. And then, so we're on the topic of when you get changes in your career, when you come to a stop in the road and something is challenging you and you need to either go this way or that way, or up or down,
choice. Make
certain choices, right? And when I worked for a brand for a long time, for when I first started belly dancing, and then eventually that company had certain challenges that I could not be a part of. And when I was getting out of that, I realized things. So this is like another example of how careers, and I mean, I know right now we're using our personal experiences, but this season we're going to be interviewing and talking about other things. But I realized coming out of that brand that this was a moment where I had to tap back into myself that I hadn't done in a long time for my dance career, because I had an art career before that. And I was a painter, and I had my own vision and mission for my paintings and for my shows and the portraiture that I was going to do. But the painting also overlapped with the dancing, but yet there was so much that overlapped with the brand that I was working for that I started to, by the end of it, feel like I was not myself. And it wasn't until later that I was like, wait a second. And as I was doing things in the dance world for myself, in my own career and in my own independence with my dance, that I was like, wait, looking back, that wasn't really me, or that wasn't all me, or that was so much part of this other brand that started to, in a way, control my decision making. So it's a topic that we will have in a later podcast, but I want to introduce it now because of the theme that we're going to be weaving in this season of when should you start to stop and halt and slow down your horses so that you can remember why you started dancing in the first place. And that is like a question that's always going to come up for us in different parts of our life. You know, like for you, why you maybe started dancing and now you can fit it into this new avenue, this new life that you're going to be starting to live. And then me a few years ago, why I started dancing and how I'm going to fit that into my independence and my own branding and go off into the world and book studios and teach classes, or maybe we came up with a whole new business, you know, that was in collaboration of that piece of ourselves.
When we're part of a collective, either a brand, a studio, a dance company, a dance group, right? You gotta keep in mind of like how to keep your individuality and your values too.
Definitely.
At the same time that you are, you know, embarking on that journey.
Easier said than done, right? Well, you and I have both been there.
Easier said and done, because also there's power in the collective too, right? And then if you're under certain brand or certain company or certain studio, you have certain benefits, right? You have an audience over there. You have a team of marketing that it's helping you and supporting you. You have a direction that it's already set up for you. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Right?
And those are great when you're starting.
They're great.
Absolutely.
They're great. But it gets to a point where you also, as an individual and as an artist, you kind of like relax on it.
Yes. You get comfortable.
You get comfortable.
And sometimes that comfortability, you ride that wave. Oof. And then something comes that kind of hits you in the head, and it's either you or you have a mentor or you have life that happens to you. So
something that interests you too, something else that interests you, some ambition that comes that you're like, oh, I have this little thing that I want to do, but if I keep myself here, I'm not allowed to do it, or I cannot do it the way I want to do it. And those are very interesting intersections in life.
Yes.
Just like we said, like, okay, you're going to take this road, it's going to take you this, or you take this road to the unknown that you don't know if it's going to bring you more power and new discoveries, right?
Right.
And I'm excited for that podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one too. But going back, so there's that jump from the self-discovery, right? But then at the end, it's making that decision and trying and going for it, in having fear or whatever happens in that whole mix of things. But you have to do it in order for you to
difficult.
Know. Totally easier said than done, right?
It's so difficult to
yes,
do that rupture or that transformation of that relationship. It's usually like, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna survive? Yeah. How am I supposed to quit this?
And it's good to have a support system, a network of people that can help you, personal and business wise. And yeah, that's basically how I got through it, right? Is the network that I have, the few people that I have that I could talk to about business, and I could talk to about how to deal with that in a personal space. Because situations like that in any career are going to happen, right? And then I wish I would have known a lot of stuff, but we'll talk about that later. But there's a lot of stuff that I wish I would have known. And I wish I would have known that I had the permission to, because if you don't have anybody to help you and give you certain like ideas or spaces to breathe, you end up feeling all sorts of emotions, and blockages happen when you feel, too much or think too much. So, and then it slows you down. And then the evolution of your work is at some sort of halt, whether you like it or not. So definitely going self-discovery and lifestyle.
Powerful. Yeah. And it's about what we've been talking about, how do we see limits, right? Is this something that is limiting me, or it's time to me to limit my limitations? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, I love it.
Let's talk about these books that we have on the table on the topic of self-discovery and the beautiful thing about reading and books that Valerick and I have been doing a lot lately is pulling in the things that we are inspired by in our daily life
and
sharing it. And we want to share it with you guys because these things have been overlapping in our theater productions, even to our shimmy socials and our choreography programs that we're starting to get creative with. Because yeah. Can I start?
Yeah, go for it.
So this book that I have here was gifted to me by a good friend of mine and a student, Sarah at Heart Hips Mind. She's also one of our sponsors for our event last year. And this is called The Heroine's Journey by Maureen Murdock. And it's because in the performer lab that we had last time and the theater show, The Myth of the Feminine, we talked about Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey. Briefly, we kind of sprinkled a lot of other references on there, but the whole idea of literature and performance arts was something that kind of, I have a feeling, I feel like that's why she gifted it to me. So, because it's a fascinating book, and this book is informing the creative part of my choreography for 2025. And it's a jump off of The Myth of the Feminine. So in this book, I was very happily surprised that she talks about the Mesopotamian goddess Inanna. And Andres and I had worked on the intro video for The Myth of the Feminine based off of Inanna's story and her mythology. But this book expands on it and the psychoanalysis of this character. But it wouldn't be Inanna's mythological story if it wasn't for also her sister and another female character. So this book is definitely, and it's only a little piece, it's in one of the chapters, but books like this are a place where, because I love books and it's part of my personal self-discovery, that I can bring into belly dance stories, into the creative work that we do, at least pieces of it, not entire portions of the things that we do on our personal life, but just portions of it, right? So this book is really interesting. And I can't wait to share it with my students and the choreography that we're going to be doing together for this year. And also the video art that I'm planning on creating based off of this mythological story.
Tell us a little bit more about that choreography project that you have.
Absolutely.
And how this is inspiring you.
Okay, fantastic. So we don't have a theater show this year. We're not producing one except for the performer lab that we're going to have Stories of the Season later, which is a smaller scale theater show. But both of us want to continue expanding on the Myth of the Feminine, which was a theater show we had last year, right? And I wanted to keep something simple for myself and not overwhelm myself with a billion choreography programs this year. I didn't want to overwhelm myself with too many shows. So I said, let me just, and this is the first time I do this, let me just choose one theme, one story that I can really work on and go with it to several places. Of all the years that I've taught choreographies and taught classes, I've never actually given myself a chance to expand on one storyline. And it's partially the brand and the company I used to work for. Their theater shows were very much in like the, for the lack of a better term, a shallow kind of
Simple,
themes.
yeah,
Simple, yeah.
Which is common in a lot of dance recitals, too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't mean shallow in a bad way. I just mean like in the surface area, which is totally fine. I get it.
And it makes sense.
It makes
too,
sense.
Totally, yeah.
It absolutely makes sense for the student to just know, okay, the theme is crystals and the colors and, that's it. But I never gave that to myself. So this story of Inanna is a little bit dark, but it ends up being a very powerful story and an uplifting one. But Inanna, long story short,
yeah.
she decides to go into the underworld to go to the funeral of her sister's partner's death. And her sister, and I have to always look at the name because I don't know why I can never get her name. Ereshkigal. That's her sister's name.
Okay, I see. I see why you have to
to look at it because of that. So Ereshkigal is the keeper of the underworld, and she doesn't like that Inanna's going down there. So she tells her minions to stop Inanna from going. That Inanna has to let go of her crown, of all her earthly garb that represents her on earth. And so Inanna decides that, fine, I'm going to go. I'm going to take off my crown. I'm basically going to go into death and see what happens when I go meet my sister, which is, quote, quote, her shadow side. So Inanna and Ereshkigal are the same person, except that's representing the female psyche's shadow side. She goes and she meets her, but before she goes, she tells her peeps, Inanna tells her rescuers on Earth, if I don't come back in 3 days, I think it was what it was, go ask the 3 gods, male gods, to help me. She goes down, she doesn't come back, Ereshkigal kills her, and her 2 people try and go and ask the other gods, the male gods, and they all say no. They all reject her. So then what happens is they need to go to a water god and ask him. One of the gods eventually says, yes, okay, I'll help you. I'm going to give you these gifts. So these 2 beings go down and they're sexless. They don't have a gender. And they go down and they listen to Ereshkigal and they listen to her mourning. And all of the shadow part. And so she feels like they are listening. And then she feels sympathy for Inanna. And eventually she gives the gifts of resurrection to these 2 entities. And they resurrect Inanna. So she goes back up and she's reborn as more of her pure self without all the norms of her earthly self and what the patriarchy has told her that she needs to be. And she goes and takes back her throne. That's a long story short, right? So, sorry, I had to put it in there. I had to put all that in there. So that choreography theme, I'm grabbing it so that I can create a very theatrical type of performance, moody in the beginning with a lot of dynamics. There's wings, there's sword, there's finger symbols. At the end, the finger symbols are meant to represent the energy and the revitalizing with music. And because, of course, finger symbols are an instrument. So it'll start dark, but it'll definitely be one where you'll see all of the dancers together making music, and that's to represent the support. As women, we go into dark places, and I'm generalizing as women because this is specifically a female's story, a female journey story. That represents. What was I saying?
Yeah. This is a women's journey. Yeah.
The resurrection and the rebirth, and the very, I was saying that every woman goes through the dark parts. There we go. Okay, back on track. That every woman goes through the dark parts of herself, and then she comes back out because there's some sort of support helping her. Because we don't do things on our own. We do and we don't. Mm-hmm. And that to me is very nostalgic and representative of what belly dance, the dance itself, does for us, and how we meet people that can help us on
the journey. Yeah. In the dance room. That's interesting. I'm looking forward to see that choreography.
Me too. I'm looking forward to see what I come up with.
And I think it's such a fascinating way of also creating through mythology too, because mythology, just like we explore in the myth of the feminine, provides so many universal concepts too, that it's so interesting to work on them in dance. And I think it's going to give students a different challenge, right? Other than just dancing like a genre or a style. Like now we just have to go into these archetypes, right? And these stories and these universal figures, and try to find them within us, and at the same time try to project them. So I think it's a fascinating project also for dancers to get involved, because that's like a collective artistic growth for everybody, for you as a choreographer, and also for their students, also for them to be able to project your vision. Yeah, it's fascinating.
That's a goal that I have, is that they, and I always do this with my ladies regardless, because when I have a group of ladies that have been with me for so long, and I'm sure you do too, I kind of start to let them choreograph very specific little parts for themselves, because at least for one of the missions of Belly Dance Stories is that they start to see themselves in the dance. Of course, we take them on, with belly dance, we take them on a journey to learn styles and culture and history. That's absolutely important. But then we also still want to, along the way, have a space for them to see themselves in the dance as their true self, right?
Totally.
Because sometimes that could get lost in, oh my God, an oriental piece that I have to do that it has to be like this, 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 and this. So
we get too fixated on following that a structure or a style, and we forget about dancing.
So we just want to kind of open that space up for them. And I know we both did that for Myth of the Feminine that first time around, and we're
it's
most
powerful.
likely going to be doing that again.
Also collective reflection too, for everybody, and also for the audience that you're going to be presenting it to.
Yeah, both in person and also through video art.
Which is going to be very interesting.
Yes, which you're going to be helping me with that
direction.
direction.
You, because we want to also help dancers in that journey of video art that we love. But we both love
video art and creating video. Yeah,
screen dance. Screen dance.
Definitely.
Oh my God.
Yes. Screen Dance Festival.
Yes.
Tell me about your book.
Well, I read a very popular book nowadays in bookstores. And this is a book by Rubin, which he's involved in the music industry. But it's this creative, beautiful mind. And he has this book, check out the title, The Creative Act, A Way of Being. Like, hello, Belly Dance Stories.
The Creative Act, A Way of Being.
A Way of Being. It's this little booby over here. It's a bestseller. It's very popular. It's very easy to find. It's one of those books that you can find even in the airport. That's what I'm trying to say.
I saw it at the PAM, at the Perez Art Museum.
Yes. And it's a very light reading. And it really encourages creators and everybody to become an artist, and also understanding the act of creativity as something that is related with being, right? Like creativity doesn't necessarily means that anytime I'm going to do a dance is the only time that I get to be creative. You know, I get creative also creating my living room, right? We are constantly making these creative choices in our life. But I think for dancers specifically, and for people that are starting a creative journey, this is a beautiful Bible to help you navigate creativity. There's so many great tips, descriptions, rituals on how to tap in your creative self and in creativity in a playful way, right?
Very important.
Very important. So a couple of the things that that they stay with me is that sometimes we feel like this rush of inspiration. And we're like, I want to do this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And he described them as seeds, right? So not all those seeds are going to grow. And sometimes those seeds, you have to kind of like put them in a Ziploc bag, right? Some of them grow very fast, right? Perfect example is us with Valiant Stories. Let's just do this show and then suddenly, you know, that process takes you to a different journey. And there's other projects that you are gonna see that sometimes the timing is not correct, but that doesn't mean that that's a failure, right? And
that's important to know that, well, failure, that's another topic to
like,
kind of.
it doesn't mean that maybe right now is not the moment for this project. And it's okay to put it on pause, which I feel sometimes us creators, we're like, oh, this didn't work out, and you get frustrated. You got to learn how to also make decisions in that process, because creativity doesn't necessarily is going to come like this rush of fluidity and flow that happens normally like that. You know, there's projects and ideas that some of them you may have it and you can keep it in your backpack for a long time. And then 10 years from now, it's when it's actually the great opportunity for them to grow. And I think it's a beautiful guide to understand that also when you're not feeling creative, that's okay.
Oh, 100%. Because that's when you should be resting your
Exactly.
Yeah.
And,
I've
and
been
that's
there.
okay. And you could take that time to perceive, and that also it's part of the creative process, right? That creativity is not necessary only the act of creating, is that it includes this entire ritual around it, that even in the moments where you're not inspired, actually, you're still working towards your creativity, because they give you an opportunity for you to, okay, let me just stop and perceive what's happening right now, what is actually moving. And you need to have those moments too. And it's a very easy reading. Very easy reading with different chapters that touch around different type of subjects. And I really enjoy it. I will say this is a very inspiring book, perfect for the beginning of the year. Easy book that you could actually leave it and come back to him whenever you need a little bit of spark of inspiration. Perfect coffee table book.
Was it one of those you can just open anytime and
At
anywhere?
anytime, yes, and anywhere.
Oh my God, those are good.
And like they have different titles, okay, that you can go and
Tell us some.
Yeah, mira, for example, this Right Before Our Eyes, A Whisper Out of Time. They're all very poetic.
Okay. That's up your alley because you're a poet.
I love it. Breaking the Sameness, The Abundant Mindset, Temporary Rules. That one is very interesting. Because
I like that. Temporary rules.
I'm
Not
telling
everything
you.
has to be
Yeah.
a rule forever and ever and ever and ever.
Forever. And And also, I like this idea that, he's able to have all these chapters, but there's still like one main idea,
Okay.
which is the creative act is a way of being. Like our life is a creative act. So beautiful. So yeah, it's been a book that has keeping me inspired now during Christmas and my time that I had to like rest and keeping myself inspired, motivated, and it's beautiful. It's his interviews, Rick Rubin, I highly recommend it for everyone because he's really talks a lot about creativity. You could see him in a lot of like the most famous podcasts nowadays. I think he's in Diary of a CEO too.
Oh,
and
one of my favorites.
He is an inspiring speaker too. So it's it's a beautiful book.
Great.
It's a beautiful book.
We're going to have the links for you guys to look at these in the comment section or however you're viewing this video and interview here. I love it. I'm going to get that book for sure. I love books that you can open up to any page at any time and just start reading. Well, I love all sorts of books, but those are really great, like you said, if you just need a little moment, a 5-minute rest of your day, a rest in your day, to open up to one of those books and just read it. Yeah.
And I think also like you can't teach creativity. Like you can't teach it.
Well, no, because creativity is curiosity.
But there's tips that could help you to navigate on them. And I think I do get in my private classes, a lot of students that, they come because they want to be creative, right? Like there's this need and obligation to be creative and somehow the synonym is actually to be extraordinary, right? I want to do something different. And we have to really take some time to like redefine what is creativity for us, right?
Right. Sometimes we mistake it for another desire that we have and we use creativity, but it happens. I understand sometimes in other conversations it comes up and I question it. I'm like, are you sure that's creativity that you want or do you want something else?
Or you want something else.
Right.
That's a great observation too.
Yeah.
And I think the book, it's great to have people kind of like redefine that for themselves.
Yeah.
In a very unique way. And
because creativity is definitely accessible for everybody. All we need is a little bit of curiosity, action, and rest for us to simply be creative people. And we naturally are. We just maybe mistake or overthink what creativity is. Right?
So yeah, I think it's fascinating, these two books.
Me too.
To bring them to the table.
Yeah. To the Belly Dance Stories table.
Yeah. So.
And play. I wrote this down here, and play.
Play is important. Such an important part.
So I think that we're both really excited for this season and for the year as well.
So stay tuned because the other podcasts are going to be amazing.
Yeah.
We gave you like a little
teasers,
of some of the topics that we're going to be talking about. Let us know in the comments. Connect with us.
Yes, connect with us. Is there anything else that we're forgetting to say? I don't think so. I think
we're good.
We're good. Yeah.
We're good.
So if you have any questions or comments, or if you want to see something, or if you want us to interview someone in this season of 2025, let us know in the comments or email us. Our website, bellydancestories.com. If you want to send us an email, bellydancestories@gmail.com.
Easy.
You can find us on our socials. We have Instagram as bellydance_stories. And we have as well TikTok and our YouTube channel. Yeah.
So we hope to see you soon, guys.
See you guys soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Baby,